I came to Solution Center because of family issues and just personal things going on in my life. So I asked around and found out about Solution Center, and it was probably the best thing for me. If I hadn't gone to Solution Center, I would probably be dead. Totally, to be totally honest, because I was totally lost. I didn't know where to go, didn't know what to do. I didn't even know, until I was in St. Agnes, I didn't know about Solution Center. And when I left St. Agnes, I said, I need to go someplace that can offer me help. And they said Solution Center, and it's like within 2 days I felt so much at home.
There was lots going on in my life, and I knew that I absolutely had to get out of the situation and the environment that I was in, or simply was not going to survive. My neighbors had no clue. They thought my life looked as good as anybody else's life. I, lived in a nice home. I had a wonderful family. I had a 35-year-old mate, or 35-year marriage to a mate. So from the outside, it couldn't look any better. Very different in reality. And, you learn to put up a cover, and it was a horrible life. I was depressed, I was in the hospital, I couldn't be who I was, I felt trapped, I was isolated from the people that make sense to me because, I was maneuvered and manipulated and puppeteered and controlled. And I felt that there was so much more that I could bring, but not in kind of that lockdown, I want to say. So again, I'll say I was really a living non-existence. I had to get out of the emotional piece, I had to get out of the verbal piece, I had to get out of the isolation piece, and there was more. There was no physical, but there was always that haunting sense that that could be part of. So that was the other huge bonus with the Solution Center, because it was locked and no one was going to be able to get any information regarding me, nor be able to come in and pose any problem for me. So that was really a bonus.
I came to Solution Center due to homelessness. My fiance and I have struggled a lot as far as being able to pay our bills and stay in a place. So we have gone through eviction processes. So we came to Solution Center just because of homelessness. If Solution Center hadn't been there for me, I don't know where we would have ended up. Nobody in our family, neither mine nor my fiance, is financially stable enough or has a large enough house to be able to take us in. So it's hard. I don't know what we would have done. There really is no other options for us, at least not if we wanted to stay in this area. I don't necessarily want to go to Oshkosh or go to Sheboygan or go anywhere else with my son's schooling and everything that we go through with that.
I thought that a shelter would be like, you see on the TV, I lived in San Diego for 16 years, and shelters there were cots on the floor, and people sticking their belongings under their bed. And Solution Center is a home, it's a house.
Before I went to Solution Center, I was terrified. I had no idea what a homeless shelter was going to be like. I imagined a big giant room with a bunch of cots. And once I got there and I realized, we had our own room, which was amazing. We had that little bit of privacy. There's food provided. I don't even know how to say it. I was terrified going in there, but after I got there and realized what it was all about, it made me feel a lot more at home. It really is almost like a family over there.
I have a very unique situation. I have a 29-year-old son who functions under 2 years. He's 6'2", so he's, really a visual thing, and he's very, very loud. So that posed a challenge too. And where was I to go with this? And then they made accommodations like you couldn't absolutely believe. And Huey was one of the Solution Center peeps, and he was very respected. They accommodated around him, and we had a very comfortable life there. More importantly, we absolutely had to have a safe haven. We didn't know what was going to happen to us. First, we didn't have the stuff, and then we were frightened about what might happen to us. And when you're responsible for another adult man, and you thought you made a responsible decision, and all of a sudden it looks extremely irresponsible, what are you doing? So it was so welcoming and so wonderful to have the Solution Center.
I love giving my clients optimism, knowing that they can do anything that they want to do and be whoever they want to be. And when they come in, they are at the darkest points in their lives. And I try to build them up to make them better people. And to see that, to see them grow into being so hopeless to being grateful and move on and then come forward and thank me for all the things that I've done for them and to give them the tools in life to find employment, to find stable housing, that is the greatest point of my job.
My job is to meet with the men and try to figure out a plan, of what they're going to do while they're in shelter, and refer them to all the different agencies and resources in Fond du Lac. I help them do a job search, I help them with housing search, help them get set up with getting food share or medical assistance, I help them apply for disability if that's something that they need to do. Just work with our different partner agencies in the community like Salvation Army and St. Vincent de Paul's and AdvoCap and other agencies. It all depends on a client and their specific situation. For some of these guys, if they didn't have the shelter to come to, they would be out on the street, and it's really hard for them to take and get back on their feet when they have nowhere to go or nowhere to shower, and maybe they don't know about some resources in the community. So we're the first step for them to start getting their life on track and get over those barriers that are causing them to become homeless.
Camaraderie might not seem really important, but I do have to say that it's a very lonely time. And it's a time when you're really second guessing, especially when it's not just you, but it's another adult individual dependent on you. And loneliness is a horrible thing, and I felt like I was already in a very lonely situation, so to leave that, that's the last place you want to be. But we come from all different backgrounds. There's people who never expected to be there. There were, any number of different types. And yet there was a strong bond that was the emotional stability there. And that was exactly, of course you need food, water, shelter, but you also at that point in your time need an unbelievable amount of emotional support, and that really happens in that environment. No matter where you came from, you bonded it up, and everybody was going to be a changed person as a result of those relationships. So that was really exciting for me, because I was at the darkest place I can ever remember. And loneliness was completely obliterated. Plus, the staff, whenever you were really kind of by yourself feeling, ooh, they came forward with whether it was a pamphlet, a soft talk, a word of encouragement, a community resource. There was always something that they could bring forth that gave you more hope.
It's like the resources that they have through Solution Center, it's phenomenal. Like I said, she had me on the phone that day with disability, and I have a place to live now. You know, I have a part-time job. All these resources I didn't have when I was living on the streets.
Solution Center gave me a lot of support, even if it was more emotional support. It was nice to have, especially Sarah, to talk with while I was there. She's a great sounding board. She gave me lists of resources and helped me get my son in for his autism testing, and she helped me get my son applied for Social Security, which has been a great help.
When our clients come in, they're in survivor mode, and Solution Center gives them the hope by having them not give up. I think that's the point, is restoring them back to knowing that they can do this and that they're not alone and that we're here to help them. It's providing them guidance, again, during the darkest point in their lives. Surviving for our clients, gives them opportunity. It boosts their self-esteem. It provides them safety and security, and it leads them down the path of a positive life.
AdvoCap works with the Solution Center very closely. Over the years, programs have changed, but all in all, it's been almost daily contact, for sure, a couple times a week contact with the case managers from the women's shelter and the men's shelter. When we come over to meet with the participants, we usually sit with the case manager from Solutions, as well as the participant, looking at what their needs are, what brought them to Solutions, what we can offer as far as resources and referrals, and to what type of housing programs that might be available to them, and or landlord contacts that we have. In our agency collaboration with Solution Center, it is very important to have a case manager at the Solution Center at both the men's and women's shelters. Over the years, it's just been very beneficial to the participant and to the agencies as well, to know that there's a contact person for someone to not just have to wait in line for in a homeless situation, just to show up just to sleep. I really feel that the case management is very beneficial to the community, to the other collaborating agencies, and to the participants or the person who is experiencing their homeless episodes.
Fond du Lac County would look very different if the Solution Center wasn't here, based on the fact that their growth of homeless people has been tremendous, unfortunately. We're trying to end homelessness, and together I think we're making an impact. But the fact that we are able to assist more people based on the fact that they have a safe place to stay temporarily allows us to use our resources to help people change their lives. And that to me is the most important thing, and we're grateful to have the Solution Center. Communities that don't have an emergency shelter are at a great disadvantage.
I work a lot with Solution Center as a partnership. Both of our agencies serve the population of domestic violence victims, which is a population that needs a lot of assistance. And so between both of our agencies, we're able to kind of meet all of those needs that are very crucial in our city of Fond du Lac and our surrounding county areas. Solution Center provides a lot of different services that we can't always offer at the hospital, but it also as a partnership, we're able to sometimes assist clients together.
A way that the Fond du Lac Police Department works at the Solution Center, I would say there's daily contact with one form of the Solution Center's properties or buildings. In winter, we do a lot of contacts daily, multiple times a day with the warming shelter. We have a lot of people in this community that for one reason or another are out on the streets, and if you can remember last year's winter, it was very harsh, and a stairwell and a parking ramp or an awning of a building is not appropriate shelter for people out in those elements. And if we didn't have the ability to drop in all times of day at the warming shelter and keeping it open all day longs at times, we wouldn't know what to do with these members of the community. There would be people dead. There would be people not leaving violent relationships. There would be people and children growing up in environments that is not conducive to them becoming productive adults. One particular time that I can think of that has stuck with me and happened several years ago, so this is something that has stuck with me for a while, was a family. It was a domestic situation. It was a situation with children being abused, and going into that house and trying to reassure mom that this is not necessarily how things have to be. And even though you have a large family, I can make some calls and I can see if we can get you a place to go tonight. And in talking with her and calling the Solution Center, calling over to the women's shelter and asking, do you have room for 8 people? And they were able to move people around and get this family in. And during that time, I think the family didn't realize the severity of the situation they were in, and would have likely stayed if I wasn't persistent and if we didn't have a place for them to go. And ultimately, while we were on that call, the husband had came back to the resident and left a note on the house, on the door, that was very scary. And it was very scary for me because I've seen where things like that have gone and where the family's used to that and may have lived with that and may have stayed there if we didn't have that opening at the women's shelter for that family to go to. And I have kept in touch with that family, and they are safe now. They are happy now. And if they had not made that decision to leave that night and there had not been an opening somewhere at the women's shelter, who knows where they would be today.
The Solution Center is very important to the community as a whole because we invest in people. We're investing in the assets of this community, being the people. They have an ability to restart their lives and change their lives and become productive people, getting jobs, keeping their children in school, and working as a family together. So it makes it a huge impact on what the community looks like.
I love Solution Center. They have been incredibly helpful to my family. I could cry. They've been there when we didn't have anybody else.
There are so many pieces of the Solution Center that without, there would not be that real ability to move out and thrive. All the components align and give you the very well-rounded preparation that you need to leave. And there are more in the community than any of us know about. And I think that we need to be able to get the community to see that, and we need to be able to really empower them to be part of what is, at some people's point, the last step. They don't have what they need. They aren't who they need to be. And the Solution Center is that transitionary piece that makes them successful. So in order for them to be successful in continuing to provide those multi-services and even multi-disciplines, of course it takes funding. And I really wanted to be able to contribute to that. And so if I can just tell you, contributing is what makes this program just move and go where it needs to, and not be that kept secret. Because there are no options for people. This is the end of the road. And if they, these are human beings and they need to have opportunities. They need to have a community that supports them. And Solution Center meets it all.
The support of financial gifts towards the Solution Center, I think, is imperative for our community. The resources that are offered through each of the different centers, the ability to give people hope again, to give people a place where they feel they have a sense of belonging and people that are going to support them. So to think that if we didn't have enough money to keep these open and running, I don't know where our community would be. I don't know how we would survive and what we would do as police officers and how we would be able to tell these families that, sorry, there's nothing we can do for you right now. It's important. These gifts are important to our community. It's important to our members of our community, and it's important that we have hope. And that's what these centers represent for our community, is hope that there are people out there that will better our futures.
Fond du Lac has to be one of the most generous communities on the planet. The community support shown to the Solutions Center is monumental. It is through this generous support that Solutions Center is able to provide shelter, counseling, and basic needs to a population of people that would otherwise go without. Every penny counts. I encourage people to think, what would I do if my life had significant change? Where would I go? Where would a loved one go if he or she experienced domestic violence or homelessness? To me, the answer is the Solutions Center.